Hi, it's Deanna from Stitches Quilting, your online quilting fabric store. I have here 30 squares of some vintage 1930 fabrics that are all with different patterns of baby, very sweet, friendly baby prints. There are 30 different fabrics here. This is available as a quilt on the website. But what we're going to do is make a baby quilt out of this kit, out of the 30 squares. We're going to sash them with this vintage 1930 fabric, and we're going to put it together. And you'll see how. As you can see here, we are putting these blocks together with a piece of 1.5 inch sashing. And I'm going to put a piece of this sashing right here to face side together, and we're going to use the 1/4 inch seam, which is traditionally what is used in all quilting projects. I will go ahead and sew that on there, and then take another block. I tried to vary the colors that we're using, and I'm using a little bit of a darker thread so that you can see that in the stitching as this is being constructed. And you can see here we're going ahead and putting another one on here. Let me open this up for you. So we've got 3 blocks here together with 2 pieces of sashing in between. We will sash 5 blocks together, and we're going to do 6 rows of those. After we finish this, then I'll show you how to connect the different rows together. Okay, you can see I've got all of these blocks so that they're sashed together with the green sashing. And now we're going to take each of these row of 5, and we are going to join them together with another 1.5 inch sashing strip. So first what we're going to do is stitch this sashing strip to the first block, and we're going to lay this down and stitch away. Now what we're going to do is we are going to match this up, stitch this sashing strip to this row. And it's important here that when you're feeling this, that you're making sure that these rows are matching up. And so I will often take the flaps of fabric and push them separate ways. Like I'll push this one down and push that one up, and I'll kind of smash them together to make sure that it's all lined up together. Then I go ahead and I pin it right where it should be. And I do that at each of these intersections where there's a new block being done. You can see it's okay to stitch it straight to the sashing strip, but I want this seam to match up with this seam. So that takes just a little bit of thought, and you've got a feel. So you just go ahead and you bring these down, and you smash those seams up together, and you can feel that they're matched. And you can feel that in there. And so it just takes the discipline of making sure that they're matched up. Cotton is a stretchy fabric. You don't think of cotton as a stretchy fabric, but if things aren't matching up on this side, then when you're stitching, you just can give it a little bit of a stretch to make that actually match. And I like to, when I'm sashing things together like this, to make sure that both sides of this match, so I will actually double pin on each side of these seams. Same thing down here. I'll bring this down, make sure that this is matching up, and pin once again. So you just keep pinning and matching your seams. Okay, I have finished the top of this baby quilt of the body part, where there's 5 by 6 squares of different unique baby retro fabrics that from the 1930s. But what we need to do in order to, when you're quilting, you always want to have a flat top, and the goal is to have a flat a quilt that can lay flat or hang flat on the wall. And so it's very important that before you add your borders, because to this I'd like to add a 2.5 inch border of this yellow kitty baby fabric, or a 4.5 inch, and then also a 4.5 inch strip of this fabric right here, which if you want to purchase this as a kit on stitchesquilting.com, you can also pick out the pink here, if you just kind of want to do the pink theme. But at this point, what we're going to do is, to do this, to add these borders, we need to square up the quilt. Cotton is actually a pretty stretchy fabric, and you don't really imagine cotton as very stretchy. So you need to bring your ruler, and I try to kind of go along the seam of these other blocks inside here, and you just line it up, and then you clean off the edge of your blocks so that you've got a nice, smooth, clean edge to stitch to. Fabric moves and it kind of stretches as you're working with it on the sewing machine, and so it's important to square up the edges of your quilt before, as you're building it larger and larger. So that's what we're doing here, and then we're going to go ahead and add the next set of borders. Okay, we have the quilt top all squared together. We are now going to add the borders, and I wanted to show you how to do that. What I do is I cut my border strip 2.5 inches wide, this first border strip. I start a little bit over where that selvage is, because you don't want that to be part of your stitching. And you go ahead and you line that up with the edge of your fabric, and then just stitch that on. I always stitch the top and the bottom border of my quilting around the quilt. I do top and bottom, and then I do my left and my right side is the order of the borders. And then you will square it again before you do your second border. So you square it yet again. Okay, we've put the border on the top and the bottom of this sweet little baby quilt. And so now we're going to do the next, the left and the right side of the border. So I'm going to bring this all the way up, and you can see here's the selvage with the holes in it. So I'm going to lay it just a little bit higher up, and I'm going to bring this border on and then just start stitching this down. And I have, you know, once again squared off after I sewed on those borders. I squared off the corner so that I'd have a really straight edge to stitch this down on. Okay, you can see here we've got the whole quilt top completed. It has all the borders on it. It's now a good size baby quilt. I think that this is a very charming baby quilt top. I wanted to demonstrate for you real quickly how I go about just making sure these borders are nice and straight. Is I once again just line this up along here. I kind of see where my seam is, allowances in here, and then I just trim this off so that the excess border fabric that you might be seeing is actually off of the quilt, and it's no longer there. This quilt top needs to be pressed, and usually I do press before I do any, you know, ironing, but this, I mean, any cutting or straightening of the quilt, I will do that again. But this is ready now to be machine quilted, but it needs to be layered and pinned, and I'm going to demonstrate for you how to do that in the next little episode so that you can see how to layer and pin a baby quilt size quilt, that, you know, in order to do that. And then I will demonstrate how to machine quilt on this baby quilt also. So we will see you soon, but hope you enjoy this. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.